Making Big Shifts, presented by Marketing Reboot, with your host, Josh Anderson.
Welcome everyone to Making Big Shifts by Marketing Reboot. I'm your host, Josh Anderson, and we spotlight real entrepreneurs making real changes and real results that follow. We'll break down the playbooks, the pitfalls, the pros and cons, and show the proof about how you can scale without chaos. So let's get to it. Today, I'm really excited to be joined by Alex Demczak. He's a best-selling author, keynote speaker, and founder of ShareYourStory.com. Welcome, Alex.
Hey, Josh, thanks for having me, man. It's been a while since we met in person, but man, looking forward to this. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, for sure. A little background. A couple of years ago, I think now, Alex spoke at a mini conference I was at, and it really stuck with me here in Columbia, Missouri. And of course, Alex and myself are both Mizzou alumni, so we have that tie. Alex was the quarterback at Mizzou for a while, right?
I was a quarterback, yeah. And I tell people, a lot of people ask me, oh, how was your career? I say, well, I tell people I actually played tailback, because when I would try to get on the field and get playing time, our head coach would say, son, you get your tailback here right now. That was my career in a nutshell. But yeah, man, loved my time at Mizzou, and yeah, super formative years. And
Yeah.
And now I'm just a big fan, like you are as well, man. I just had coming off a tough loss last week, but yeah, it's Mizzou football's on the rise.
For sure.
So.
Good commiserate together about that a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So, well, let's kind of dive into the principles behind making big shifts. And, it's really about personal, professional life. And those instances where you come to a point in your life where you're like, oh shit, or oh crap, I got to make something change. From your personal experience or any of your current businesses, you want to tell us a story where that happened to you?
Yeah, man. I guess you brought up Mizzou, and I think that's a cool segue into a topic that I think relates to anyone listening to this show. But yeah, I would say after I graduated Mizzou, I started getting into speaking, and I would go around and speak at different companies and different teams, and there's a lot of stories I could share. But the one that I think maybe is relevant for your audience would just be that as I was speaking, I was on the speaking tour. And I kind of come out with a recent book, and I had 4 talks that I had to give in Iowa in one day. And so it was at the school district. It was like Chamber of Commerce for the teachers, for the students, then one more talk at night. And I finished 3 talks that day. Things were going good. And I had one more talk that night. And I was like, I'm feeling good. It's going to be great. And I walk into the room where I was supposed to speak for that 4th time. And again, like there had been kind of a full crowd at each place I'd been so far. And I walk into this last event, and there's one kid that showed up to this event, and one 4th grader. And so, the event was on a Thursday night. And I'm walking into the room and I'm thinking, what am I doing here?
Yeah, totally.
There was like a lot of emotions in that moment. There was like frustration of like, okay, who planned this? Who dropped the ball here? 2, it was like embarrassment, humiliation of just like one person. And this kid was like super positive that day at the assembly. So like he heard my thing and wanted to come, which was really nice. And so I remember walking into the room, and I guess I should say, his dad had to drive him there, being a 4th grader. So there was actually 2 people, big crowd that I give pat on the back. But as I'm walking over to this kid, I remember it wasn't like an audible voice that I heard, but it was like a question I asked myself. And the question was, who am I to overlook the one? Who am I to overlook the one? Because remember, I'm on this like book tour, I'm speaking, and I'm, and I think I was so into, talking about me and what people thought of me. And so in that moment, it's like, it kind of humbled me pretty quickly. And so I think, I kind of collected myself, and I had that thought of like, who am I to overlook the one? I like inwardly collected myself. I like walk over to this kid, and just for the next few minutes, just spent a few minutes just affirming him, encouraging him in front of his dad. I gave him a signed copy of my book. Do 4th graders read leadership books? You got to get him started young. But he probably threw it away. Who knows? I think that moment changed me, because it was like, here I am trying to do my own thing, caring about how many people show up. And so now when I get an opportunity to speak somewhere, I'm not really focused on who's going to be there, how many people. It's like, am I showing up with excellence? Am I preparing so that I can bring a message that is compelling, that adds value to people? And so I think you can take that message of like, who's the one into every aspect of your life. And I think whether that's in your business, the way you approach things, the way that you love people. I think it's really easy to, for me, I'm guilty of this all the time. It's like you have a big vision or idea and all these, or you have a checklist of all these things that you want to do. And then a lot of times it's easy to overlook the person right in front of you.
Hmm.
And I think that's what I try to encourage people is like, what's the point of building a business? What's the point of doing all these things if the people who like know, I want the people that know me the best to respect me the most. My kids, my people around my family,
Yeah.
right? People that I work with. And so what's the point of doing all these things if you like lose their respect? And because they really know you, they know your blind spots, they know your weaknesses. So I think that's
Yeah.
what I'm focused on is less about like, hey, I want to go around and speak a million times a year and be gone all the time. It's like, no, like what actually makes sense and to make the greatest impact. So I think that's just a cool way to start, with a kind of a humbling
Yeah.
story on my end,
Totally.
but that really changed me. It kind of changed my view of like when I get an opportunity, I look at it through a different lens now, and I'm kind of less focused on me, I guess. I'm not perfect, obviously, none of us are, but it's like, what does it look like to make an impact one person at a time, even if there's literally one person that shows up to your talk.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I still have my signed copy of The Sale that you wrote with John Gordon. So it's a good book, by the way. So check it out, guys.
Hey, thanks.
No, I mean, that's a great story for sure. So like, I know you can take that in your personal life and like your speaking engagements, but how do you like embody that in a business setting or like for your shareyourstory.com, like as you're building the culture there? How do you try to embody that there?
Yeah. So our kind of one of my main businesses is called shareyourstory.com. And so we help thought leaders, you know, write and publish their book. We help them with media, help on social media. We help them with speaking, becoming speakers. And so I think for us, it's understanding. It's kind of the same thing. It's like, hey, you might, if you have everyone has a story, right? Everyone has a
Hmm.
message, a unique gifting to share. It's like, but a lot of times people think, well, I'll do this if, I can be a bestseller, if I can whatever those metrics are. And it's like, well, what if there was like one person who could actually be helped by your story? Because a lot of times, to your point, it kind of takes getting out of your comfort zone to share some of these things. Like maybe there's a story, or maybe there's something you've been through. You're like, I don't. But what's crazy is when you start leaning into those stories, it's crazy the breakthrough that happens. Like a great example is a woman named Leslie Wyrich. We published her book, and her son committed suicide, and very very sad deal. And she went through a long process of grieving, and so now her book is about helping people grieve, and it's also about suicide awareness and prevention. And she goes around to military bases and she speaks on her book and the message and all the things about her amazing son. I look at that story and it's like, well, if she wouldn't get out of her comfort zone to share that, she would never help these people. But she's constantly posting on LinkedIn of like hugging guys in the military because she's at their base and there's breakthrough. And I think that's a great example of like, it's not easy for her to do that. It's not easy for her to get on a plane and go speak every time, but she's like called to do that work. And so I think to answer your question, it's like, it's having the viewpoint of, what are my unique giftings? And I'm reading a book right now called Radical Stewardship by a guy named Steve Graves. I met him at a conference last month. He's a great guy, great book. And he talks about like identifying your superpowers, because most people don't ever take the time to identify their superpowers. And what he would call a superpower is just something that comes natural to you, that is easy for you. But other people are like, whoa, like how do you do that? But his whole thing is like, most people never actually define what their superpower is. And so his whole message is, well, if you don't take the time to define it, how can you steward it? And like being a good steward of something is cultivating it. You're multiplying it. He's like, how do you ever multiply or cultivate something if you haven't even defined what it is? And so for me, it's like, okay, what are my superpowers? Okay, maybe I'm a strategic connector. So I get like a weird satisfaction out of like connecting people that I know are going to connect. Like sometimes when I connect people, they end up becoming better friends than I am with one of them. It's like that. And I guess it shows I'm a good connector, but it's like, oh shoot, I didn't even think about that. But it's just funny. Maybe it's for me, like being a builder. Like I love the visionary process of like building something. I don't like maintaining it. That's not my superpower, but other people have that superpower. And so I think for you, it's like anyone listening, it's like, have you taken the time to like get on a whiteboard, put in music and what are my superpowers? What comes easy to me? And if you don't know, meet with someone like you, Josh, you could coach them, or like
Right.
find someone that loves you, cares about you, that's willing to tell you the truth. Gary Wilbur's is someone like that for me. I can go to him, he can share good feedback, and I know he's being truthful. I think everyone needs to find someone like that to be able to bounce ideas off, because once you find that superpower, now you can say, okay, how can I be the best steward of it to make the greatest impact?
Yeah. No, that's great advice for sure. And we're kindred spirits in that aspect of being builders. That's what the superpower question, that is like mine. That's what we always come down to. But everybody needs to understand thyself, right? So I think that's great advice. And I want to kind of go back a little bit to what you said earlier about share your story, and about business, shareyourstory.com, and how you help these leaders find the right voice. Because obviously you don't want to reach, it'd be amazing to reach all 300 million Americans. I mean, there's children that can't read it, but you know what I mean? But really, it's all about pinpointing the 10,000 people, or the 15, 20, 30,000 people that you can really make a positive impact on. How do you help people find that smaller niche from the big group?
Yeah, it's good. I mean, I think because a lot of people will say, okay, if I write my book or I do a podcast, it's like, is it for everybody? And it's like, probably not,
Yeah.
And so you hit it there when you said that. So I think it is helping people understand, okay, if you had one message to share, like your last thing that you could say to your kids or your grandkids, like what a message that you would want to share, like what would that be? Like what burns inside of you to be like, this needs to be right, or this needs to be done this way. So once you identify what the thing is, then it's like understanding, okay, who's the network of people that needs to hear this? So like for the book that you just held up, the book that John and I wrote, it's a leadership fable about leading with integrity. So I go speak to companies in corporate America, and they all get that book as part of, when I go in and speak, everyone gets a free copy of the book. And the whole message there is like, look, you are in a high performance job. Like I'm speaking with some financial planners coming up. It's like you're in a high performance thing, a high pressure, high stakes. What would it look like for you to lead in a way and work with your clients in a way that you modeled integrity, you lived with integrity? So 20 years from now, you can look back and say, wow, I wasn't perfect, but I'm glad I did it the way that I did. And I can sleep well at night because I did it the way that I did. That's the goal for that book, and why, it's geared towards that audience. And so I think it's understanding, who is it for? What do you want the outcomes to be? What do you want the objective to be? And a lot of people are like, well, my story, is it that meaningful? It's like, well, one, probably yes. You're just not giving yourself credit. But two, you don't know how, a good example, you don't know how people are going to perceive it or take things from it. Like you heard me speak 2 or 3 years ago. You might have a takeaway. Maybe you thought I was a terrible speaker. Maybe that was your takeaway. But, hopefully that's not the case. But you might have had a takeaway that someone else in the audience was like, "Ooh, this really hit me." Like I spoke last week at an event, and someone came up to me and they said, "Alex, like you shared this, it was actually the parable of the talents." And so it was actually a verse from the Bible. And he said, "Hey, I grew up in a home that I heard that verse a lot. But in the verse, it talks about the fear is what held the third person in the story back. So like fear was the thing that held him back." And he came up to me, he's like, "Hey, Alex, I've heard that so many times. I've never made the connection until I heard you say it, that it was fear that held him back." And I'm like, and he said, "How often do I get held back by fear?" And I was like, that's awesome that you shared that with me, because it's like, you just hear these things and everyone picks up different things. So I think that's my encouragement, is you don't know how people are going to react to your story, but my opinion is that it's your job to be obedient, to share it, to be faithful with it, to steward it, because it's the story that you've been given. And so if you had something, if you had a medicine, if someone was sick, if someone was sick and you had a medicine that could help them and help them break through or cure the sickness, why would you ever withhold that from them? You wouldn't. You would give it to them, right? And so I think in the same way, when you have gifting, skill sets, perspective that can help someone, give it to them, share it, be open-handed with it. And I think it's pretty amazing. You'll see what happens when you start acting, living that out. It's not easy. It's not the comfortable thing to do, but I think it's the right thing to do.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, just even living your best self, there's a lot of fear that just even doing that, living your best self, right? But then sharing that is like double the fear, right? So I get where people have struggled doing that. Yeah, that's a great story. Well, now, whenever you started on the speaking tour, or whenever you started going out and do public speaking, what fears were holding you back, or were there any that you had to overcome?
Yeah, I think for me, I think I started speaking when I was like 26. And so I think that was the biggest reservation for me, was like, who am I to go into this company
Right.
and I'm
Imposter
this young,
syndrome.
yeah, imposter syndrome. There was a lot of that, man. I think, yeah, there's a verse that I think it's First Timothy 4:12. It says, don't let anyone look down on you because you're young, but like set an example. And so I think for me, it's like, that was encouraging for me to read that, to be like, you know what, like there is a perspective I can share being a millennial or whatever with some of these older folks. And so I think that was a fear for me. But then I had to come to the realization of like, hey, if I believe in this message, if I believe this is what I've been given to share, I have to share it. And so what's cool is when you start sharing it, you start sharing about vulnerable things, people come up to you and just then they'll be vulnerable with you. Because a lot of times people are used to hearing someone who's like, oh, you know what, I climbed to Mount Everest and I'm a millionaire. And it's like, it's kind of just not, it's hard to like have common ground sometimes with someone like that. You're just like, how do I relate to this person? Like they've done it all. I can't measure up to that. And so
Yeah.
I think the key is the humility aspect. Someone like you, someone like our mutual friend Gary Wilbers does so well. It's like you've achieved a lot, but you're approachable, you're humble, you want to give back, and that's, yeah, really cool.
Yeah. No, that's great. Think like this whole time we've been talking, I keep coming back to the maybe it's just some of the books I'm reading. Like I'm reading a book by Sylvia Bloom now, The Five Types of Wealth. That's a 6-time bestseller, great book. But like I mean, all comes back, not necessarily that, but bits and pieces of like finding your definition of success, right? I mean, I feel like, and then living that, owning that, getting into that. I think that's really hard for people because we hear everything about success is money, big house, nice car, right?
Yeah.
That's obviously not true. Like time, having free time and not being obligated, not having fewer obligations is a massive definition of success too.
Yeah, totally, totally. I think that's kind of the season of life I'm in. Of yeah, man. I think yeah, there's something about living a simple life that is pretty attractive. And again, it's not what you see in the marketing messages. It's not what you see that's, to your point, that's publicized as much. But a lot of the people that I probably respect the most, who, whether it's business coaches or spiritual coaches or people that I have friendships with, they have a pretty simple life and they're pretty intentional about the things that they put into their mind. They allow themselves to consume with media, things like that. Like I don't social the only social media I have on my phone is LinkedIn because I just don't want to waste my time scrolling. You know, it's like I would rather put good things into my mind. I'd rather dreaming up new things rather than just again, nothing against social media. It's just that's kind of my conviction about it.
I went through that about 6 months ago, deleted all the apps off, and it's been great. So
Good for you, man.
yeah. Well, cool. So it's been great. What are you excited about right now? What that you're working on? Obviously speaking, shareyourstory.com. What are you excited about?
Yeah, so I would just say in this, I'm about to have our third child, so that's a
Oh,
big
congrats.
big addition. Yeah, thanks. So that's just 10 weeks away.
Ooh.
So that's definitely on my mind. But other than that, yeah, shareyourstory.com. Yeah, we're doing books, media, and speaking. And so I think just the idea of helping someone become a thought leader in their space, I think is really fun. And, I think of Brian Smith, the Mizzou wrestling coach. He's been at Mizzou for almost 30 years now. And we helped him do his book called Tiger Style, which, yeah, you should get him on the podcast. He'd be great.
That'd be great.
I'll
Yeah.
connect you guys. And then, we've been helping him with LinkedIn. His stuff's blowing up right now on LinkedIn. And he was just doing a speaking engagement in Branson last week. Now he's going to Colorado this week. So he's on fire right now, right
Awesome.
before
Yeah.
his season kicks off. So I think when you see someone go through kind of some of the process we built and have that success, it's like, man, this is really fun.
Yeah.
It's,
For
it's
sure.
actually a lot more fun than me going out to speak. It's like, wow, I want to help other people do that. So that's kind of my focus, is helping people become thought leaders. How can we help amplify their voices? And yeah, we're just excited, man, just to continue to multiply that. And I think there's about 80 authors in our current pipeline that we're working on that will be publishing soon. And so when you think about that, 80 authors publishing, that's a lot of books that are going to be
Yeah.
sold. It's a lot of books that are going to be given away at events. And for us, that just means a lot of impact.
Yeah. A lot of great stories being told that maybe would not have been out there. Right. So that's
That's
awesome,
right.
man. I really appreciate you coming on the podcast today. And thanks for answering the email. I know we had seen each other for 2 years, so I appreciate you doing this. So,
Man, thanks for having me, man. I love what you're doing. Keep it up. And yeah, appreciate you having me on your show.
yeah. And if people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way for that?
Yeah, my website is called alexspeaking.com if they're looking for a speaker. And then, yeah, for anyone that's like, man, I want to share my story. I've been thinking about this for a while. I have a book idea, that you can just go to shareyourstory.com and you can just fill out a form there. Our team would love to reach out to you. And you know what? Maybe we'll even give everyone a good old Josh discount for being on the podcast.
There you
It
go.
Put in the form, just say, I know Josh, I listen to the podcast, and we'll make sure to give you guys a nice healthy
Love it.
discount there.
Love it. I might submit my own form with my own discount on there.
Hey, that counts too. That hey, integrity, got to live by the message. We'll honor
Yeah.
it. So,
Sure. Once again, thanks a lot, Alex. And thanks everybody for listening this week. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube, Apple, Amazon, and then you'll get weekly podcasts. And until then, we'll talk to you next time.
Thank you for listening to Making Big Shifts. Like, share, and follow for more. Join us next time on Making Big Shifts, presented by Marketing Reboot,